let's talk about stalls in your sales process. What does that mean? Okay, what's a stall mean? A stall could be a stall meaning we're in a vehicle and it just stops and we're not able to make any more progress. There are other things that happen. If you watch races, you're watching the Olympics, you get a false start. These things happen in project planning too. We get a false start and we've got to restart the project. So stalls and false starts are common in the business world. They're common in sales. What are some ways that we can avoid stalls and false starts when working with customers? Well, one of the ways that we can avoid stalls and false starts when working with customers is to be very, very deliberate about our project planning. And what do I mean about being deliberate about project planning? So, and I'm not a PMP certified person. I don't have a background in prints. But what we know about project management at a broad level is project managers assess risk. They help keep things on track from a time perspective. They hold teams accountable, and they're very, very clear about what the next steps are. What are the things that we're doing? So look at this in the same way. Look at your sales opportunity, your pipeline management of a given opportunity in the same way that you would look at a project plan. What is our 30, 60, 90? And keep in mind, your 30, 60, 90 is constantly evolving. If we're not executing on our 30, 60, 90, why are we not executing? Is it just not that important to the customer? If it's not important to the customer, let's go back to the original problem that we agreed we were going to solve for. Let's talk about the risks associated with not solving for that problem, or having the date of the solution get pushed out further and further. As dates get pushed out further and further, then you've got to ask yourself the question, is the problem really that important? If it's not as important for them to solve in the time frame that they originally discussed, then maybe it's not important for them to solve anyway. Maybe they've just moved on to something else. If the reason they're not solving in that time frame is because of an external circumstance, like a budget availability, then let's address that. If there's some other reason why they're not solving for it, maybe there's a new priority. And we've all gone through this earlier this year where all of a sudden everybody was forced to work from home. Well, the priority became very quickly, how do we help our employees work from home quickly? Everything else was just put on the shelf. Now we're at a point where people are all working from home. What's next? How do we get back to business? How do we keep the business running? So it's important for us to keep in mind the priority of our customer and use that priority as a way to help avoid false starts and stalls. And if, for whatever reason, priorities change inside the organization, then let's go back through and reforecast things. Let's go push those deals out. Let's be really clear with each other about how we're going to execute against that stuff rather than just let things hang out there because we're optimistic a deal might come through. So for me, the best way to avoid stalls and false starts is through clarity. Clarity of expectations, clarity of when a problem needs to be solved. If someone can't state when that problem needs to be solved by, then maybe it's not that important to them. The other question I like to ask is, how are they solving for it today? What they might find is they can actually throw headcount at the problem, and that's good enough for now because they've got other things that they've got to address through other ways. So when it comes to stalls, go back to basics, look at your 30, 60, 90, look and see how you've been executing against the 30, 60, 90. Look at how that aligns with the priorities that are happening inside the organization. If for whatever reason you're not accomplishing the things that you lay out in that 30, 60, 90 day period, then you've got to question yourself on whether or not you've got a real opportunity. And if you miss a couple of times, you probably don't have a real opportunity. Let me know what you think. Thanks.